Good morning, guys. Tony Maritato here. So in this video, I want to talk about the growing pains of becoming a private practice owner, of being a business owner, of transitioning from self-employed to actually owning a business, because those are very different stages in your development. And one of the main kind of pitfalls that I see from a business perspective is not having what we would refer to as an organizational chart, an org board. Basically, if you think of the human body, I could have all of the best musculature in the world. If I don't have a skeleton, those muscles have nothing to pull against and nothing to move. Your business is just like the human body. You have systems, you have movement, you have life within your business. If you don't have a skeleton, the muscles will not move you forward. So the skeleton is your organizational chart, it's your documentation of policies and procedures, and it's really essentially where the value is in your business. If you fast forward 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and you decide, hey, I'm done. I don't want to be in business anymore. I don't want to treat patients anymore. I don't want to do this. I'm ready to move to the next stage in my life. If you want to sell what you've created, you need a structure. Why does McDonald's sell their franchise for hundreds of thousands of dollars, whereas another mom and pop shop that can make a better hamburger can't even get $5,000 for their business? Because McDonald's has the policies, the systems, the procedures in place. And that's what I want to convey to you. So a very simple way to start the process. From day one, the first time you decide I'm going into business for myself. If you haven't read the book E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, it's a great way to kind of get your mind thinking about this process. But basically, you want to treat your business, whether you decide to sell it or not, whether you decide it's something that you want to grow or not, you want to treat it as if you were going to franchise it. And every step in your business, you want to start to document, you want to start to proceduralize, you want to start to create a written record so that if something were to happen to you, you would have somebody else step into your shoes. So let me give you an example. Today's a great example. So I'm here in Ohio. We've got a snow day. There's about 6 or 7 inches of snow on the ground. We knew yesterday the snow was coming in. You never know quite how much snow is gonna fall, but you know that patients are gonna cancel. So we need a system in place to handle and plan for the event. So starting yesterday, we looked at our schedule. We started to make a list of all the patients who are likely to schedule, all the patients, or rather cancel, all the patients who should cancel because it's unsafe for them. We put a plan together so that we were able to help and accommodate these patients. Now, some were eligible for telehealth visits, some were eligible to move later in the week, some we moved up. Some patients that would have been coming in today came in yesterday. But the idea is there was a procedure in place, a step-by-step process in order to allow the team to know what to do in this situation. How did that happen? Me, my wife, we originally created those systems. You know, another great example is when a patient has a scheduling conflict. Whether the patient is calling to cancel, whether the patient is calling to reschedule, how do you, in your practice right now, handle that situation? I'll tell you how we do it, and then I'll tell you how we systematize it. So, new patient, follow-up visit, whatever the situation, patient calls and says, I cannot make my 1 o'clock appointment. Okay, so we have a flow chart essentially in place where if it's early in the week, whoever answers that phone call, a therapist or an admin staff knows. Step number 1, we try to get the patient on the schedule for another time in the same day. If the patient absolutely cannot do it, option number 2, we try to add that session in the same week. So in other words, if it's a Monday or a Tuesday, they're calling to cancel, we try to schedule on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, any day that they're not already scheduled. If they can't make that, option number 3, we look at adding a day in the frequency of the plan of care to next week. So if the patient is currently scheduled 2 days a week, we bump the frequency for next week up to 3. Physical therapy is just like a medication. It's got a prescription, it's got a plan. If you don't comply with the plan, you don't receive the benefit of the care. So it's a waste of insurance dollars, it's a waste of the patient's dollars, and it's a waste of the therapist's time. So we want to do everything in our power to help that patient receive the best possible outcome. But we need steps in the process to help that patient. Too often I walk into a physical therapy practice that isn't mine, and I see they have objective measures. They say, well, we're expecting a 90% arrival rate. And I say, okay, that's awesome. What are the tools for your admin staff to improve the arrival rate if a patient cancels? And they don't really have tools. They don't have systems. They don't give their admin staff a way to improve the stat that they're responsible for. So, this is a simple process, right? Number one, you try to get them scheduled for the same day at a different time. Number two, you try to get them scheduled for an additional day in the same week. Number three, you try to get them scheduled for an additional day in the following week. Number four, you try to get them scheduled for an additional day at the end of the plan of care. Somewhere throughout this system, I've given you 4 opportunities. Now, let's take that to the next level and let's say, okay, whatever is going on with the individual patient, we got it handled, but I still have an opening on my schedule at 1 o'clock. So what do I do with that? Well, then I look at tomorrow's schedule. I look at the schedule for the rest of the week. Do I have a new patient evaluation that's scheduled for tomorrow or later that I can offer this spot? Do I have a patient or a busier time on the schedule, some other time that I can move one of those people into this spot? Patient visits have a lifespan, right? It's like the date on your milk. There is a date that milk is no longer good, which I know you can drink spoiled milk. It doesn't make you sick. That's a whole separate video. But anyway, there is a lifespan for a patient visit. And the closer it gets to going unfilled, the less it is worth. So we want to do everything in our power to try and optimize that time. So I'm looking at future patients to see if I can bring them forward. If I can't do that, I'm looking at future patients. Maybe I could have my clinical staff who would have treated the 1 p.m. appointment call some of the appointments that are scheduled for new evaluations later in the week, do a telephone admission, do a telephone new evaluation. That's not a billable service if the patient's going to get an in-person evaluation within the next 7 days, but that is time that you could use for face-to-face patient care when you do see that patient. There are just so many opportunities to recover what would have been lost revenue, what would have been lost time. Time is so valuable. We need to cherish it and protect it. I don't run a high volume clinic by any means. I don't expect my clinical staff to see 60, 70, 80 visits a week by any means. But the reason why I can run a less productive clinic is because we can run an extremely efficient clinic. We get reimbursement for the services we provide. We don't have denials. We don't have rejections. And all of that comes back to your basic skeleton, your basic systems, your basic policies and procedures. So this is the advice. I know this took too long to get to. Basically create an organizational board. And the way I typically do it, and if you want, post in the comments below this video. I'll record a new video sharing this, but I take a Google sheet or a Microsoft Excel sheet. I take the columns and I do 3 main categories. I do an administrative category, a clinical care category, and a marketing, maybe finance category. Then within that, I literally document every single thing that I do. So when I walk into the clinic first thing in the morning, what do? Well, I have to unlock the front door. I have to flip the sign. I have to unlock the interior door. I have to turn on the light switch. All of these things, all of these little activities that you don't even think about anymore, they need to be written down somewhere, and there needs to be a procedure for how this is done. You turn on the computer, you log into this, you do that, you clock in, you check the voicemail, you check the fax line. You document plan of cares that have been signed and returned because you have a fax log that's showing outstanding plans of care, right? All of these little systems eventually will add up. None of them are particularly hard to do, document, but as you compile this list, you're essentially wearing every hat in your organization at first. But then as you start to hire people, if you don't have a structure for them to step into, it's a nice dream to say, well, hire smart people and they'll figure it out. You need a vehicle for them to succeed. And this is that vehicle. I always say, if you really want to be able to step away from your business, if you really want that time freedom to get out of the day-to-day operations, to take off the fire hat because you're not putting out every fire, everything has to be documented and systematized. And so we have a piece of paper next to our phone that it says step by step how to answer the phone, and then how to determine if it's a new patient or a follow-up or a cancellation. And if it's a cancellation attempt, this is the step, this is what you do to handle that situation. If it's a new patient, these are the steps, this is what you do to handle that situation. I know it sounds crazy. I know none of us went into physical therapy to do that. We went into physical therapy to treat patients, to help them meet their goals, to feel better about serving the community. But we can't do that unless we do this, right? And this is building a business. So guys, obviously we're at 12 minutes. This could be an entire lecture. Hours and hours of time could be spent on understanding exactly how to do this. But if you want an exit strategy, if you want that freedom, if you want to own a business and not a job, it starts with the structure. It starts with the skeleton. It starts with your organizational board. Get at it, start building it. Let me know in the comments if you need more clarification. I'm happy to discuss it. Guys, as always, thank you so much. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next video.